So, a brother in Toronto was pulled over by police because he actually did do a driving infraction. It was a rolling stop. But the police officer was then asking, "What's going on? Because your car smells like weed." And check out what happens after that.
Long story short, I was coming to work yesterday morning, maybe around like 8:15. I was driving, and I guess I rolled the stop sign. I was bringing too much attention, right? So there's two cops somewhere hiding. They said I rolled a stop sign. I'm like, all right. Then he went from saying I rolled a stop sign to saying my car was smelling like weed. So I was like, yeah, I don't smoke. But I had my coworker in the car with me, which he smokes weed. And he smoked the following morning before I picked him up. And then they asked if there wasn't any weed on the guy. So the guy's like, yes. He has a little small, container, but it was already rolled, right? The cop was saying, oh no, you can't have that in the front, and so on, so on, so on, so. And then he asked me if he can search the car. So I was like, yeah, go ahead. And they searched the car, and that was the outcome. Patted me down, and then I went on my way to work. And that was it. But I didn't know, bro. Like, freaking, I don't have weed on me, so I don't see why you had to even to ask me to pat me down or to search the car. But it's whatever, I guess.
Okay, so yes, driving infraction. Pull over, absolutely. But then when the police officer said your vehicle smells like weed, and then he wanted to search the vehicle, and this brother allowed him to, he didn't have to, but he allowed him to. Does anybody else feel like this police officer was really trying to find something or potentially plant something? The way he was searching that vehicle, and it was so frantic. And by the way, aren't police officers supposed to wear gloves when they're doing these kinds of searches? And again, the way that he was searching that vehicle, it was like, I need to find something on this black man and his coworker who was, in the passenger seat, who had a joint. And the police officer said it's not legal for him to have a joint sitting in the front seat. Well, according to Section 12 of the Ontario Cannabis Act, you're not supposed to have a joint that's rolled or in anything like that in the front seat. That's true, especially if it's in like the center console. Anything that would be close to the driver, it's considered illegal. They look at it as though it's like having an open bottle of alcohol, even though it wasn't smoked. Apparently, it has to be in its original seal or be stored away somewhere, like in a trunk or somewhere away from the driver or children 12 years old and under. So that's the rule, okay? My point is, he didn't smoke it, the driver didn't smoke it, and clearly this police officer was trying. He was doing the most. Searching the driver even after his friend is the one that had the joint. Now, granted, he could have handed the joint over to his coworker once, he got stopped, but I don't believe that's the case, okay? They didn't hide it. The coworker was like, yeah, here's my joint. It's rolled up. Okay. I didn't know I'm not allowed to have that rolled up because nowadays, everywhere you go, you smell weed like you smell cigarettes because it's legal to be smoking. So, he wasn't smoking it in the car. It was just freshly rolled. Back to this police officer who was frantically searching. I am so happy that our brothers now have dash cams where they are surveilling the police officers in the same way they surveil us. So we were able to see how this police officer was just doing the most to try and find something on this brother. And when he didn't, he makes him step out. And he's searching him and searching him. And in the end, it looks as though it was a friendly exchange. I see that the police officer is smiling and whatever, whatnot. But sadly, that is a rarity as it relates to this kind of traffic stop for a black man in Ontario, or in Canada for that matter. It doesn't normally end this way. And maybe it was a better exchange because this brother was so compliant, like he allowed this officer to search his vehicle like that. He didn't, he wasn't resistant in any way. So maybe, that's why. But we all know that even when we do comply, sometimes it still doesn't end well for us. And when we don't, it really doesn't end well for us. So I'm grateful, that it did end well for this brother. And I'm super grateful that he had a dash cam. And I encourage all brothers and sisters out here, make sure you invest in a dash cam. And if you don't, at least have your phone on. If you have somebody with you, tell them to turn their phone on if you are busy being frisked by these race soldiers. But always make sure you have some sort of surveillance, because then it becomes their word against ours. And in Ontario, not all police officers have body cams, okay? So you really, really have to make sure that you protect yourself. And so in this case, it ended well for this brother, but man, these police officers, y'all need to stop this. You need to leave these brothers alone. It's a very, very simple thing. Rolling stop, driving infraction, write a ticket, tell them their options. They can go and fight it in court, or pay the ticket, and then you keep it moving. All of this was not necessary. All that points to me is that this is a race soldier who's an anti-black racist, and it just feeds into the narrative and actually the statistics, not just the narrative, of the over-policing that goes on with black men in particular, more so than black women. That's all this proves here. Okay? And they need to stop it. Seriously. Now, if I was this brother, I would look into something. I would look into if there's any way that I can file a complaint against this officer, because although, yes, there was a driving infraction, as I said, there's a process for that. And everything else that happened after that is not the process. Okay? But let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content. Also, don't forget to download the African Diaspora News app from your Google or Apple store, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Emma Ansah Unfiltered.